I'd like to call to order the April 22nd meeting of the Board of Police Commissioners of Woodbridge. It's now 6:19 and the meeting's in order. So first order of business would be approval from our previous meeting of March the 17th. And I would ask if...
I will move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
And any further comments, questions, concerns, additions, corrections? None of the above. So just in time to join in the vote to approve the minutes.
Just in time to raise your hand.
I know what we're voting on.
So all in favor of approving the regular meeting amended minutes of the March 17th
Aye.
meeting? Say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Moving on, Janice, it doesn't appear that we have anybody for public comment at this time. Do we receive any correspondence from anybody?
No,
No.
thank you.
And when I asked that question, did we receive any correspondence, does that include potential concerns from residents about anything that might have been referred to the traffic
No.
committee?
No,
Nothing at all?
no, those would go there accordingly.
Okay, great. So I guess it's time to review the reports, starting with financial report, Chief.
So currently, we're just over 9.5 months and 3/4 of the way into the current fiscal year. We're at 71% of our budget expended thus far. So overall, we remain on target and well within the allotted funding range where we should be at this time of the fiscal year. And then, again, most of the funding lines that I mentioned last month still remain challenging for the reasons that I previously that we discussed. But as I said, overall, we're within our budget parameters. The one new one that went over since our last meeting, at least, was the labor negotiation line. You probably noticed on there was about 113%, and that has to do with ongoing labor negotiations with the collective bargaining unit. Agreement. Other than that, really nothing new on the budget. We're within range and looking good to finish out the year. Everything stays the same.
Well, when are we gonna run on overtime money?
Yeah, but that's off. We're definitely over on that. We're
I know.
at 178%, right? So, but that's going to be offset by the salary line.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Is it dollar for dollar by the salary line, or?
yeah, pretty much so. We have three vacancies, somebody on comp, actually 2 people on comp right now. So
Right.
And
either way, we have to cover the shift. So we'll have to get the money from one line or another.
so this budget report, I'm still trying to wrap my arms around the different systems that exist. The budget report comes out of which system? Something?
The system used by town hall, by finance department.
Munis.
Munis, yep.
Yeah, Tony,
And so Tony provides this for you all.
I go into the system and run it.
You go into the system and run it. Aha. And just curious, do you and Tony periodically meet about the budget?
Yes, yeah, and when he has a concern, or I have a concern, then we talk about it, and sometimes we have things that come up that weren't expected, so we have to try to put our heads together, best source for the funding for that. But yeah, he's always, he's right on top of that.
He's
staying close communication, especially when when it starts getting close to
Aha.
limits.
So if we circle back to the overtime being offset, the overtime is still going to be way over what was budgeted, even if we offset it for, because so if you look at the police officers line, it's at 62%. And the other things, the three things above it are just over 70. So, but the overtime's at 178%. So we still are going to be over. So,
Well, but I think, is that proportionate to the total amount of money though? Like, you know, because the salary line is, like for officers, you know, it's over $1 million, right? So 62% of that,
okay,
but the overtime line
so it's at,
was only 130,000. And we projected, you know, in funding this, when we did this budget, the reasonable amount that I funded was reduced to 130,000. So, you know, I have really no answer for it, but there's definitely a lot of money left in, you know, the police officer line due to the vacancies. I don't know the exact offset amount, but.
I think that if we look at the revised budget for police officers, 1.6 million, and we're 3/4 of the way through the year, right? So it's roughly $400,000 a quarter, and we've got a quarter left, and there's 600,000
Yeah.
still, which means we've got 200,000 in excess, and we're showing a $100,000 deficit after 9 months on the overtime line. So
we should
sounds
be-
like the chief is right. It'll work out. Do we,
Accept.
so I take a motion to approve the financial report as presented and discussed.
Yes, yes,
I know, right?
Should we move
Just
it?
mathematically speaking.
I'm gonna move it.
Okay,
Second,
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And hearing no opposition, that's approved unanimously. And on to the activity report.
So amongst the incidents listed in the statistical report that you all received, some incidents of special interest and worth highlighting for you. We had a burglary, one burglary. It was at a commercial establishment on Bradley Road, which was forcibly entered, and the safe was stolen at that location, so that remains under investigation. We had quite a few larcenies and attempted larcenies from motor vehicles, and they occurred during the daytime and the overnight hours from vehicles parked in residential driveways and also commercial establishments. Various locations throughout town, the main roads, 63, 67, 69, also Selden Street, Rimmon Road, Highview, West, Tumblebrook, Deer Run, and Brightwood Drives. And we had several stolen vehicles throughout the month. And they were stolen from locations on Route 63, Route 69, Allen Avenue, Selden Street, Diana Drive, Landon Street, and Manila Avenue. Along with that, we put out a reminder on our social media and also on our website. Once again, as we have in the past, reminding people to lock their cars and remove the valuables, or at least conceal the valuables. A lot of these stolen cars are having that they continue to be cars that are left unlocked, and a lot of them, a couple of them I think this time were left running, and at least one. And most often the fobs are within the cars still, so people need to be cognizant of that. Some criminal arrests made by our personnel during the past month. On the 13th of March, they had a suspicious activity incident at a residence involving a disturbance. Ultimately, they located a suspect involved. It was a domestic relation incident, and the person was arrested for stalking and breach of the peace. On March 20th, they served an active arrest warrant for a suspect where the detectives were able to link him through forensic evidence as being responsible for a burglary that had occurred in September of 2024 at a local business. There's a fight at the high school on the 25th in which a student was arrested for assault. motor vehicle accident in which someone had fled the scene in February of 2025, and that person was arrested by warrant on March 26th. On March 27th, they served an arrest warrant on a person that fled the scene after crashing a motor vehicle that was later reported being stolen. That occurred back in March. And on March 26th, we had 2 vehicles stolen, one from the residence and a second from a local business parking lot. Shortly thereafter, one of the vehicles was located, and it was, believe it or not, was being operated by an 11-year-old juvenile from New Haven, and that the vehicle was recovered. That juvenile was referred to juvenile court.
An 11-year-old?
11 years old, yeah. And then on the end of the month, at the end of March, they had a vehicle operating erratically, and they determined it had been stolen out of Noatak. The vehicle they were down on Lucy Street, and a bunch of juveniles bailed out of that, and they ended up arresting 3 more juveniles for that as well. And just quickly on the ISU report, during the month of March, the Investigative Services Unit performed 5 additional background investigation checks on new recruit applicants, and they coordinated oral boards of 8 potential candidates that we're vetting. Working with the Joint Regional Auto Theft Task Force, and in conjunction with our patrol officers, they located and recovered all 7 of the stolen vehicles that were taken last month that they just reported. And as I mentioned, they ended up making arrests on 4 juveniles associated with some of those thefts. They also recovered numerous articles associated with 5 different larcenies from vehicles, aside from and separate from those stolen cars, and they were able to return all the property to the rightful owners. They assumed the investigation of the commercial burglary that I told you on Bradley Road. They assisted the high school with the missing person and threatening investigation, and they served a warrant pertaining to that burglary of Route 69 commercial building burglary that occurred in September. Additionally, they conducted 5 public fingerprinting requests and performed background investigations on 3 pistol permit applications. And the Deputy Chief will bring you up to speed on our traffic activity for the last month.
So, Chief, where does this data come from? The populace these reports?
It comes from our record management system, NextGen.
That's
Yeah.
okay. And what do you exactly do with this data? Ready to do you look at trends, or?
We look at trends to see where a lot of crimes are occurring. We monitor the officer's activity. We check the accident history, where we think we should direct our enforcement and deterrent efforts, criminally and motor vehicle. For that, and that information allows us to run the numbers, and the Deputy Chief actually, we did it not too long ago. He could follow up with you on that, so we could tell you how our burglaries, if they're up from last year, the percentage of what's up, what's down, what we need to address, what we can do better with, where we should focus more or change our focus.
So basically, this is pulled from the reports that the police officers put into NextGen?
Not just reports, but anything like
anything that goes in there.
all those things. So not all of those generate a report, but they generate a number that tracks it.
Right.
So there's things that don't, like D-runs, and there's a lot of things that don't require a written report, but it's tracked of the incident by incident.
Does it capture things such as, let's say you have burglaries or stolen cars, the geographic area where they're coming from? Or
It captures the area, but then we would have to take that and plot it out. It doesn't plot it out, but it gives you the specific location. It gives you all the details for each incident, time, outcome, everything. But to put it on a graph or some kind of pin map or an electronic pin map or something of that sort, we'd have to do that ourselves. It doesn't do it automatically.
So there's a NextGen that currently isn't programmed to be able to take this and detect it.
No,
Does yours?
no, so we pretty much, a lot of that is done by hand, as you'll see.
Yeah, with the data that we have, we every 6 months check the data on violent crime, property crimes, other crimes, basically all of our major calls for service. And we check that against the year before to see if we're up or down. And then if in fact, like for larcenies from motor vehicles, if we've increased larcenies from motor vehicle, what I have to do is actually just search the computer. It's a very simple task, it takes about a minute, and I can see where the larcenies from motor vehicles are, if they're in the flats, if they're in the northern part of town or whatever. And when we have that data, then with the officers that we have on the street, we relay that to them, and they do deterrent patrols there, or make sure that they're doing traffic enforcement there, more high visibility. The same thing for traffic. That's what we checked accident data to see where, in fact, we have to do radar enforcement or deterrent safety or traffic safety patrols. That's all based on just the data that we pull. It's a pretty simple system, but we're always crunching numbers.
So have you, are either of you familiar with a program that would put some of the data onto a map? Yeah, in the notion of a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think I mentioned in a prior commission meeting a number of years ago, we did this with traffic accidents on a map, and that was part of a review that we did in meetings. I found it back then to be extraordinarily helpful, and I think it actually resulted in some things where down near the entrance to Merritt, there were really some changes in terms of traffic flow, lights, where you could make left turns and right turns and things like that. It just seems like that's worth doing.
I'm sure there is some kind of software for that, we just have to explore that and see.
So maybe we could contact NextGen and see, does that kind of thing exist, or is it a separate programming request and associated costs? Or I wonder if our new IT associate Rob Capone might have some insights into that.
Yeah, we could look into that for sure.
And I also saw that Tony developed a table, a chart that showed like different crimes with Woodbridge and then the surrounding areas, which was kind of interesting. Have you seen that? He did that in
For the budget?
the presentation package he's pulled together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of an interesting table. I'm sure you want to give that some thought. I mean, it shows pretty clearly that Woodbridge crime is down, it's on the lower end, so that's a good positive thing for the department. And give that some thought. I don't know where he came up with those numbers, but I'm sure it's something through the state, I think.
Yeah, with regards to crime being down, up or down, there are some crimes that are significantly down. Like we were down between 2023 and 24, 57% for burglaries. However, we were up 142% for larcenies from motor vehicle. We were up 157% for threatening type calls. Yet we were down 75% on robberies, 43% on assaults. But we're not talking large numbers.
Right.
Here.
Yeah.
So,
Some of the things are large numbers, like larcenies from motor vehicles. We had 46 in 2024 compared to 19 in 2023, which gives us the 142% change. So some things we are up on, some things we're down on.
so burglaries versus robberies, just remind me of the difference.
So a burglary is when there's no force involved against a person. It's a property crime. So
Okay.
a robbery is when they take something from a person by use or threat of force.
Any thoughts why those are down? It's a great thing that they're
Yes.
down.
Yeah, burglaries are way down.
I mean, is that something you might want to report, like every quarter or so? Ron, what you just read, it's pretty,
I mean, we could, yeah.
pretty informative.
Yeah.
But any thoughts of, I'm just curious as to why we'd be down. Do people just, people have more effective alarms, or we've got more, I mean, it can't be more presence on it because we're understaffed, so it's
Yeah.
not more visibility.
Yeah, I don't really have a reason. It seems like now the common crime is stolen
car
cars
thing.
and larcenies from cars and more of that
And those seem to
direction
be kids
before it
from-
was totally the opposite.
And that's not an organized group, these are kids, what, an 11-year-old?
Well, a lot of these are kind of, there is some, little bit of organization, but they're all, but a lot of them are young, but they're, I guess as organized as they could be, if you want to call it organized, but they're collectively working together. They're organized, but yeah.
I think we like to think that, even though we are, very short-staffed, what we do put on the street, I like to think that our high visibility means something. We're driving, in the neighborhoods with our cruise lights on, we're on the main roads, sometimes that bit of omnipresence makes someone think that we might have more people than we
So
actually
has that
do.
increased? I mean, I know at one point we put an empty car out, and that was as a deterrent for the,
Yeah, but I think people kind of caught on
They
to
caught
that
on
a
to
lot,
that.
and, but I think that we're fortunate that we do get them out onto patrol and have that presence, and I think that we're fortunate that even though we're small and short-staffed at the time, the men that are doing the job, they're still giving it their best, and, get
So it
by
sounds like you're doing
the
great.
staffing issue, going out there and giving it a good day's work, and it seems to show, as the numbers are showing, just.
it sounds like you're doing an effective job with the officers that you have.
Yes, yeah, so we have to, kudos to them that,
Yeah, do you think
standing
we're reaching-
strong throughout the shortage staff, and
Do you think we're reaching the, it sounds like you have a lot of people leaving cars unlocked and keys in cars. And I think part of that is I just feel safe.
yeah,
So you say,
complacency.
I'm at home, I can leave my car open. And so do you think I've seen communications from the department,
Mhm.
lock your car, don't leave the keys in the car, common sense kind of things, but do you think we're reaching people?
Somewhat, but I think it's not just our community, I think it's everybody's, all the surrounding communities have the same problem, some people heed to the warning, and some people still feel safe until they become a victim and learn that.
We put up several public service announcements per year regarding, people leaving their doors, leaving the keys in their car, valuables in their car, parking by the curb and running in to get a quick drink and their car's running. I mean, this is just continually happens. So whether people, like the chief said, I think some people adhere to it, but it's just a process that you have to keep drilling that point home.
One thing as we're having this conversation that just occurred to me was wondering whether or not there's some marketing effort to this more than just the periodic notices to remind people. Like I'm thinking about Smokey the Bear. When you mentioned this is a statewide problem, perhaps even a national problem, maybe a conversation at the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association saying, maybe we need our Smokey the Bear kind of marketing deal so we haven't identified something that's more than just, this came as a 2-sentence notice from the police department. Captures people's imagination. It gets kids involved to see that. And they say, Dad, you didn't lock the door. We just left. Worth a thought.
So getting back to traffic, this past, or the month of March, our department made 81 traffic stops, which was a 35% increase from February. Officers were deployed to do radar speed enforcement on 332 different occasions, and with regards to deterrent traffic safety patrols, 337 occasions. There were 26 accidents in town during the month of March. 5 of those were with injuries, 23. So 21 had no injuries. With regards to the injuries, 4 of those occurred on Litchfield Turnpike, and with regards to no injuries, we had 3 on Litchfield Turnpike. So these are areas like when we break the data down, we know Litchfield Turnpike is an area where we're having accidents, so that's where we're focusing some of our speed enforcement there. Our speed trailer locations during the month of March were on Newton Road and Meeting House Lane, Johnson Road near Clearview Drive, and on Rimmon Road near Johnson Road. During the month of March, we conducted 2 traffic studies, one on Johnson Road in Clearview, and the second on Newton Road and Meeting House Lane. And that's it for the traffic report.
One thing I always look at when I look at the police activity, I always wonder to myself about the variation between the officers who are out on patrol. I mean, I get it that the ISU and the SRO might have some sort of different numbers than the rest of the officers. But how do you manage when you have one officer who gangbusters on the number of stops and warnings or warrants issued versus those that don't? And I guess in some sense I see a little bit of that variation existing with the sergeants.
Well, with regards to that, you know, some officers like doing motor vehicle activity. There are some officers out there that when we run with only 2 people, they have safety in mind. So if they take themselves out of patrol, make a motor vehicle stop, if the motor vehicle stop leads to anything, there's a warrant, there's drugs, there's a gun in the car, turns into a custodial arrest, we could easily deplete the street because you're going to need 2 officers to do that. So some officers don't feel safe with only having 2 people on the road. They've expressed that to me. So that's where the difference, I think, is. What we're running out in patrol, we have 8 patrolmen right now. So 81 traffic stops, and considering the calls that officers are going to and how many calls require a 2-officer minimum, there's not a whole lot of time for traffic stops. However, that doesn't mean we're continually beating the drum to have that number increase, because we know the importance of traffic safety in town. That seems to be the #1 concern for the residents here. Yet, hence, where you see, where I read before, how many times we are actively doing radar and traffic safety. So our officers are positioned at certain locations in town with an emphasis on traffic.
Anybody else have any questions for chief or deputy?
Nope.
And I would entertain a motion.
Just
Oh,
one
sorry.
quick question. I just wonder if there, so it doesn't look so skewed, if there might be other things we can think about that measure officer activity. Other than, I don't need an answer now. I'm just throwing that out there, because if the issue is officers are clearly not the ones with zeros are not sitting around doing nothing, they're working. So we might want to present that in some way so that it doesn't look like, oh, that one's, but
Somewhere out injured.
Some of those on
Some are
the sheet
injured.
that you receive are injured, some of them are detectives that you're looking at zeros. There are,
so it might be a way to present that.
yeah, there's a handful of officers on that list that aren't in patrol.
A couple of those are out injured
Right,
as well.
you might want to,
So there's really only a limited number of people there that are gonna be producing.
Maybe put some footnotes on the bottom or something.
Yeah.
And then if that
and
was-
then-
We can't in that program, but we'll
They're
figure
not in
something
the
out.
program.
We'll figure
It's
something
something we
out.
have to put in manually, but yeah, we can look into it.
Motion to approve?
Motion?
A second?
Second.
Okay, Andy, all in favor?
What, just one quick question, what is the speed limit on Johnson Road? Is it 30?
35, I think.
30?
Because it was,
Double check.
Matter of
I don't
fact,
have it in front of me.
I just, and. so
It's
if
35.
If
Yeah, the
roads are
speed check
not
is
marked,
35.
if roads are not marked in Woodbridge, if you can't see a sign, what is the speed limit?
it's Johnson Road, as a matter of fact, we did a
Speed.
traffic study for Johnson Road. It's 35 at Johnson and Clearview.
Okay. We might, again, we might want to look for other things that we can highlight.
Mhm.
So all in favor of accepting the activity report? All right, moving on. Chief, you're up again.
Okay, so the first item I have to report is, so our next regular Board of Police Commissioner meeting is currently scheduled for May 19th, and we're gonna need to reschedule that because that conflicts with the annual town meeting and budget vote that's being held that same night. So we're looking at the calendar. I don't know if it works on your schedules or for everyone, but so it would have been the 19th, Monday the 19th, possibly Tuesday the 20th.
It works for me.
I can't do, in general, Tuesdays are not great for me, but I have another meeting that night, the 20th, that I have to run, so I
Or
can't.
then Thursday the 22nd, maybe,
Thursday the 22nd?
possibly, just. Because this meeting now is kind of late in the month, and so we don't want to do it 2 weeks from now, it'd be too kind of
Yeah, too quick.
quick,
Any chance that the Wednesday, the 21st works for people?
I'm not
No,
available.
Jan, you're not here that day.
Sorry.
What about the week before?
Wednesday's the 14th, or the 13th. Wednesdays are hard for me, but does the 13th work maybe?
Tuesday the 13th?
Yes.
Oh, Tuesdays aren't good for you, I'm sorry.
No, I can do Tuesday, the 13th. I just, I don't have anything that night.
Tuesday the 13th?
I could do Tuesday the 13th. I could do Monday the
Good for
12th,
you, Bob?
but the week after that, I can't do
Can't do, the
Tuesday.
13th I can't do.
Wednesday.
Okay, so the thing is that then we've got 1, 2. All right, so the 12th on the Monday? How's that for everybody? Keep it the same day of the week, but on the 12th?
I can do that.
Yeah, I can't.
You
No?
cannot?
Okay.
Is that good or bad?
You can-
12th is good?
No, it's not.
12th. We have one person, we should pick a day that everybody can come, because that gives us a buffer if
Yeah.
somebody,
Yeah,
last
yeah,
minute can't
yeah.
come.
So how's the 13th looking?
I can do that.
That's good.
May 13th?
13, good.
Dr. Scalater, what do you think? May 13th?
Well, there's a,
It's a Tuesday.
yeah. All right, let's do that.
Yeah, May 13th? Andy, that looks good for you?
Good.
Okay, yeah.
So we just changed from the 19th.
Yep, to the 13th.
Okay.
You You said this to Marie, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not
Yes.
on my schedule tonight.
Yes, I did. I sent it to her after the last meeting. I sent her the actual printed copy.
She's usually really good. She's almost as good as you, James.
Oh,
No, can't do that.
She's good. So we are now, what are we on? Monday?
yeah, no, Tuesday, May
Tuesday the
13th.
13th.
Same time, 6:15.
Okay.
I'm rushing from seeing patients on Tuesdays, but I'll get here.
Okay, thank you.
Don't speed, huh?
I don't speed, trust me, I don't speed in Woodbridge.
I don't either.
Or anywhere else.
Or anywhere else, yeah.
Well,
So the next topic I had, just to update you on our status of the building with the asbestos issue. So since our last meeting, work has been done in our portion of the center building to address the issue. The work's being done by licensed professional contractors, and they've been doing it over the weekend, so to reduce any impact that it would have on our daily operations. Over the weekend of March 22nd, the female locker room and the IT assistant's office were cleaned, retested, and then cleared for normal use and operation. Then over the weekend of April 5th, the work was done to remedy the asbestos issue associated with a portion of the pipe that extends down the main corridor of the building. The work on that's being done incrementally, so another section was done this past weekend of April 12th. And the asbestos issue on the tile floor behind you in the little bathroom there was addressed over the weekend of April 5th, and that work, as you can see, is still ongoing. They still have more work to do on the pipe coming down the main corridor here. That's scheduled, I believe, for the week from this Saturday, tentatively scheduled. But as I've been doing, I'll keep you updated with the emails that I've been sending out to let you know what was done and where we're at.
Yeah, that's very helpful.
Yeah, very helpful.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just an update to bring you up to speed as we are with the animal control
Just a
since.
small question about the asbestos. There was when we came to the meeting, there weren't a lot of officers here, but there was a lot of concern that I presume was universal. And in general, are the force feeling better about what's being done?
I think a lot of the questions were answers. Everyone still has concern, but they understand what's going on, and we've been letting them know what's being done, and they've met with, some of the representatives have met with the Yorkshire people and the experts, as you saw, and they've gathered all the facts, the same facts that we have. So I think there's some concern, but I think there's a lot of relief that work's been done in the areas that were done. After they finished working on a certain area, it's all contained, it has a negative air pressure and so on and so forth. When they get done, before they open it and clear it as being safe, they do retesting of the air sample and all, and verify it again. So, with that said, I think they feel a lot more comfortable than they did before, and hopefully, moving forward, we'll get beyond all that and good to go.
And the same for the dispatch team? I know they had their union rep attend
Yes,
that meeting.
yeah, it's same for everyone. Everyone has a better understanding for it. I mean, I can't speak personally for each one. I know that, we all have concerns. We always have concerns. I think everybody does. But there's a little bit more of comfort level knowing that the things that were said to be a problem are all being addressed.
Great.
So that's good.
Absolutely.
Just moving on to animal control, just to bring you up to speed from last meeting, but you know where we're at. So the deputy chief and I have been working through various logistics with the transition of the animal control from town hall to the police department. That's moving forward, and we're looking forward to establishing and maintaining efficient and professional services with that as we go on. I think a lot's been done so far. On March 28th, myself, the deputy chief, Commissioner Westfield, we met with the first selectman, the finance director, and one of the animal control officers, and discussed the transition somewhat. Currently, the police department is overseeing the animal control's case incidents and investigations, and at the same time, we've been gaining more insight as to exactly what they do and how they're currently operating, and seeing what, what could be improved on and what's satisfactory and what might be unsatisfactory, and take it from there. Concurrently with that, we're working with them to improve and document different aspects of the reporting procedures and protocols, with our end-all goal of being to incorporate all that into some formal written policies and procedures, so, that they'll have to adhere to. For the time being, the town hall remains the management and financial point of contact for the operation that's associated with that. More recently, on April 10th, the deputy chief and I had a meeting with both of the animal control officers and discussed the various facets of their job and their current operational procedures, and shared their concerns, our concerns, and plans moving forward. And then the following day, we both met, had a lengthy meeting with two of the long-term volunteers from the facility, during which they expressed their thoughts, their concerns, and we explained, same as we did with the animal control officers, our expectations and our intentions and the town's intentions moving forward. Some of the significant changes being made in the operations are all really designed to improve accountability. We'll be using computer-generated case incident reports, so the reports will be in writing, in a professional police department format. Everything will be documented, time-stamped with their dispatch and response times, and that'll all roll into putting them into our electronic scheduling system. And we're in the process of providing them with access to portable radios to enhance their communications with us, and also to ensure their safety when they go to different locations. So just to touch quickly, for those of you that don't know, like I know Commissioner Westfield brought up on NextGen. So at the PD, we, along with many of the agencies around us, we use NextGen Public Safety for our records management system, and that includes all our electronic report writing, and also our computer-assisted dispatching system as well. So that system is able to be used directly in-house, or it could be used remotely, mobilely, so like the officers could come in here and write reports, but they could also write reports from their cars on the mobile data terminals. So that's something that the deputy is setting up with VanCord to get animal control situated. So right now they're coming up here and coming inside and using our computer. And the goal in the near future is that they'll have their own computer down there, but it'll be linked to our system here, but they could do it remotely from there.
Will it require any kind of programming changes to the NextGen system to make it?
There are some programs that we've been working through, and the IT, Rock Component's been working on that, and NextGen's in the loop, but pretty much just getting them incorporated amongst the officers so that they're one of our staff in there. Now it's just our staff, so it's really transitioning an outsider into us. VanCord, you hear us speak about all the time, that's the town's contracted IT vendor associated with all our computer support. So they're the ones that are establishing that connectivity that I just talked about. And VCS is our electronic scheduling system. So that's where we're incorporating them, the animal control officers, into that. And that, so we'll know who's working, but that's also how they'll, when the transition, I guess, is completed, just like our officers, that's how they'll do their time sheets. That's how they're managed, their accrued time, time off, requests for overtime, all that stuff will all be electronic, and there'll be a record of it, and you can, it's accountable, it's easy to duplicate, so we can, get printouts to see what's going on. And I mentioned the radios, that's in the works now. And
Are you able to use their computer now, or do you have to get them a new computer? Or-
that's, I think the deputy will touch on that now, but a little bit more affiliate on the details, but I think we were talking about this morning that I think, is it tomorrow that Rob's scheduled to go down there?
Oh, good.
Yeah. But either way, fine, we talked about that with town hall, and they're on board with whatever we need to
So
get.
you're letting Tony know if you have any capital expenses?
Yeah, that'll all be done.
So how have you found in the meetings with the ACOs and the volunteer staff, are they receptive, enthusiastic, embracing of the change, or do you sense some issues or concerns or resistance to any of that? And then sort of corollary to that question is, how are they doing in the preliminary part of the training?
I think that during the meetings, the animal control officers were very receptive that the police department was going to oversee operations. Very, very receptive. And I've seen a big change within the past 3 weeks or month that we've been doing it. There's accountability now, which is a big thing. They're checking in with dispatch. We know where they are. The shelter's staying open now. There's someone at the shelter, which was an important factor. They're doing a multitude of reports. I'm actually reading more reports from animal control officers right now, a month into this, than some police officers. That's how busy it is. So,
That's very good.
and the reports are very good. We're working with them,
That's good.
telling them what they want, what we need in the reports, very descriptive. And it's a challenge because they are an animal control office for other towns. So we've come up with a system as to what kind of case number we have and how we cross-reference it to Seymour, Beacon Falls. So that's been a whole system. With regards to social media, we've kind of put not a halt on what they're doing, but we need to know what's being posted and what's being not posted. We want to make sure that everything's professional. Before they post something, they show me first, and we say if that's an acceptable post or not a not acceptable post. Everyone's, like I said, been receptive. I think once we get the radios, which we're in the process of doing, and once we get the computer, we're going to be in very, very, very good shape. We still need to write policy. We still need to develop policy on donations. But right now, with regards to donations, they're sending me a copy of a receipt. So we're going to start taking donations even for food, not just monetary donations. We've cut out taking gift cards. We're only taking cash and checks to make it a clean system. They had a big incident in Seymour where it was a hoarding situation, and they had to seize many dogs and many cats. So we had to do a verified petition to take seizure of these animals. So we already had a big incident where we're now getting some of these animals medical care and seeing if we can get these animals adopted and take possession of these animals. So a lot's been going on, a very lot has been going on. And, but I think it's been positive for the animal shelter.
Do the volunteers seem a little happier than they've been? Or?
They have, but we
Good.
still need to integrate them into the
Right.
system. This is still, very,
But that's
very
positive,
new.
though.
But I think they're, very excited.
Good.
And I think to a point where, once we get up and running and we're a well-oiled machine, it'd be nice to have other volunteers down there. It'd be nice to have educational events down there and make it a place where people want to be.
For the medical care for the animals, do we have contracts with vets, or are the vets donating their time? Or
Yeah,
both? Or both?
they use a veterinarian in Milford. That's one thing that we're looking at. I sent a memo to them because it seems kind of far. It's taken time to come from here to Woodbridge to go to Milford, to then keep the animal there, come back. We're wasting, one transportation is like an hour and a half. So we're looking into other, more local.
Don't we have a
vets.
couple of vets in town?
We do.
Yeah,
Couple.
more than a couple.
Here, Bethany, places that are closer, some of the animal control officers, like some of these other vets. I'm not certain how the town ended up contracting a Milford vet, but it's something that we're looking into. There's so many things to break down, from everything.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a slow process, but I have to say it's been very, very productive, very busy.
Great.
They're calling us, emailing on the weekends. It's been very busy with animal control.
Well, it sounds like from when we first started discussing this and you've all made the point about how much is on your plate at this moment, adding this was probably not the most timely thing, but hats off to you, Chief, and you, Deputy, for the leadership and work you've done. It sounds like you've made great progress already and look forward to more. How about the role of the police officers in relationship to it? And obviously the leadership team here is the major focus at the front end of this, but the rest of the officers will have some interface with the ACO and the
I
volunteers.
think they've always had interface, so that really hasn't changed, so whenever they need assistance, I think even today there was at least twice I heard them go out that they had to, animal control needed an assist, but that's just, the regular course of business for that. But so far, nobody has,
So they've
not been added
embraced the
things that we've had to
role
do
as
yet,
well.
but we're still trying to get that all organized and,
Right.
working on with that.
You have a guesstimate, Ron, about when we'll get to that well-oiled machine part that you referenced? Is that a month away? Is that 3
Yeah.
months away? Is it?
It's really hard to say. I think right now, I think we can be happy that we have accountability, that we have reports being written on many of the things that need reports, that we're keeping a closer eye on donations and how we receive those. Safety-wise, getting them a portable radio. I think just what we've done in a month is a major step forward to where we need to be.
Absolutely.
It sounds
Yeah.
like it, compared to where we were at the last meeting, where we are now. It
Most
sounds
definitely.
like a phenomenal amount of
And the more
progress
we-
has been made. And I
The
suspect
more we get into it, and,
things are gonna pop up that you were.
yeah, things pop up, so that's, we think we are making good progress, but then the other things also come up too that, we're going to have to address that nobody anticipated or maybe didn't know. So those things are being addressed too. So there's a lot going on with that, but we're making good progress. Vehicle replacement. So as I previously reported last month, one of our officers had been involved in an on-duty motor vehicle accident back in February. When his vehicle was rear-ended. That vehicle, that was one of our it was a 2023 Ford SUV, the hybrid. It sustained extensive structural damage, and because of that, it was totaled by the insurance. So at their April 9th meeting, the Board of Selectmen approved the use of the insurance reimbursement funds to replace that vehicle. And last week, I placed the order for a new 2025 Ford SUV hybrid to replace that. So we got a new vehicle for that. And actually, the vendor that we use had one on the lot, so it's getting painted, and so it's not one that has to be built. That's going to be 6 or 7 months out, just waiting to get it. So hopefully we'll get that into service in the next few months. So that's in the works.
And how's the officer?
The officer's good. I'll report. He's still recuperating, and he's scheduled to come back in May. I'll touch base on that with personnel. So yeah, but he's still recuperating from that. Contract negotiations, the police officers collective bargaining unit, as you know, expired back in June of '23. It remains under negotiation. Representatives of the town and the union met together today with the arbitrators. However, no tentative agreement was reached. And additional dates that are scheduled for binding arbitration, if we get to that point, if they're needed, those are scheduled for June 6th and June 30th. So I'll keep you posted on that.
6th and 30th?
Correct. Yeah, and the last thing I had was to let you know that, as I previously mentioned in February, in January I attended a meeting of the Commission of the Use of Publicly Owned Properties, QPOP, during which we discussed the status and condition of the aging police facility. And with that, they commenced site reviews of various town-owned properties that are available and may possibly be suitable should the town decide to move forward with the construction of a new police facility rather than expanding or renovating here. QPOP has since created a slide presentation of potential town-owned properties located in the center of town here. And they're going to present that in the future to the Board of Selectmen to consider those sites should they decide on a rebuilding of the police department facility. And they invited me, along with anyone of the board, to attend their next meeting, which is scheduled for Monday, the 28th at 6 p.m. at Town Hall. Should you have any input that you'd like to be included in the slide presentation that they're making. They're still developing it, they're gonna present it in the near future to the Board of Selectmen once they finish that. So I plan on being there, and you're all invited to come if anyone that would like to. It's at Town Hall at Monday the 28th at 6 p.m.
Yes.
6
Tara
p.m.
doesn't even-
Oh, yeah.
And that's
What time, Frank? Is it 6?
6 p.m.
6.
And that's all I have under the chief's report.
So what do you recommend, Chief Deputy, in terms of how, I think from the conversations we've all had, the commissioners all understand and appreciate the need for rather significant change in the physical facility, whether it's here or a new building, and we also understand issues about expense and timelines out for a long period of time. But I think we're all very committed to do whatever we can to be part of the advocacy on this. So what, other than coming to a meeting of QPOP as an example on April 28th, what are the things that you can imagine we can do to really be very, very active advocates for this issue? I know one of the things you sent me, and I appreciate Dennis and the chief sending me some of the building ideas and architect renderings from a previous run at this literally a decade ago, and then more recently the study that was done. Are those things that would be useful, do you think, for the commission to be looking at, discussing with you, understanding?
Usually should send them all to you.
Yeah,
And,
that'd be good.
for that, and just, I mean, from my point of view, thank you for your support with it, but I think we need to take it further, and if there's some way that you could reach out directly to the powers to be that are gonna take this further, because that's what we need. We need the town to, and the Board of Selectmen to say, we wanna take it further, or we're going to take it further, and not just keep talking about it, and see what they wanna do, or what the town wants to do. Do you wanna fix this up? Do you wanna, build a new building? But we need to do something more than study it and talk about it, because we've been doing that since 2009, and it's 2025.
And the cost in 2009 was $3 million.
Yeah, it went way
Yeah.
up, and
It
it's
was $3
continuing.
million to do upstairs and all of this downstairs. So we're just going backwards, we're not going forwards. We've made no progress whatsoever,
No.
and need hasn't changed. So I think that Bob's right. We have to find a better way to sell ourselves, sell this program, and we need a little marketing.
Yeah, because, as we all know, that, they've seen,
I think that
if there's been a way to get a lot of things accomplished in other buildings all around us, and we're the only one that has not had much success, and for whatever reason, the time is now. I think a lot of other stuff's already completed, and this is a dire necessity at this point. We're beyond overdue. We're in a critical stage here, and it's time.
one of the things we haven't done is we should be looking for funding. they could come up with funding for their storage shed over here. You know, they built a $1 million storage shed, they found funding for that, bonding for that. There's money out there that we're not getting access to, and we don't even know where it is. Okay, and we have to do a better job. You know, we know other departments have gotten funding over the years, human services. Other departments have not been successful at doing that. You know, we really have to do a better job at that. There is dollars available, we have to be able to find out how to access those dollars.
Are these the kind of things that you talk about with Tony when you periodically meet with him on budget-related issues, perhaps? Or
We do,
would that
I mean,
be a
there's
good-
in the first selectman as well, and I think, you know, just first selectman has shared that it is he'd like to get this going, whatever direction it goes in. So there's also a lot going on in town as well at the same time, so that's kind of the hurdle that we're,
Yeah.
Timing is
but that always seems, that's
Right,
always a
there's
challenge.
always
That's the
already
challenge, you know,
something,
and
always.
so it's
Yeah,
time to
so-
overcome it for the police department, and we've overcome all the other challenges. Every year the budget's a challenge, but things are getting done, and, you know, now it's time that the police department needs to get done, so. But we've had conversations about it, and, you know, and they're on board with it, from what I gather, but we need to take it to the next step. That's it for my report.
If there are no further questions, take a motion to approve the chief's report. Second?
Oh, I'll second. I thought it was second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Personnel banners.
So we have three topics here. We had one was, we had an incident back in February. It was during a snow and ice storm that we had, for which the fine dispatch and on-scene performance of our personnel was evident. That evening of February 16th, Dispatcher Anthony Baradesca and Dispatcher Donna Carr were working the evening shift, actually during prolonged shifts during an ice storm, and they stayed over. And they had a call from an elderly female about a fire upstairs in her house and smell of smoke. And there was a resident that had some physical disability. Working together with both of the dispatchers, they were able to talk to her and guide her how to, so she could make her way to the back of the house safely. And simultaneously, they were able to dispatch the fire department and get them going and officially getting their fire to EMS services. Upon the arrival of the first officer, that was Officer Thomas Testa, he determined that there was indeed fire at the upstairs in the house. The elderly resident, she was inside, but right just inside the back door, but he was able to assist her with her safe exit from the vehicle. And so the collaborative actions of all three of them during that incident prevented serious damage to the home, because they were able to deal with her and get the fire department dispatched quickly, but also prevented her from having any serious injury and assisted her out of the scene here. So with an issuance of a letter of commendation to Dispatcher Baradesca and letters of recognition to Officer Tom Testa and Dispatcher Carr, I officially recognize them for their fine performance and their dedication to duty, and thank them for a job well done with that. So that'll be in the personnel files.
So, and Officer Testa is the one with all of the activities, so he also has time to do this.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Very active.
As far as the extended absences, as the previously reported, we have two officers currently out of work due to work-related injuries. One officer is out from that workman's comp injury that goes back to November of 2023, and his work status, his return to work, still remains uncertain, pending further medical evaluation and insurance company and compensation in town reviews. The legal powers are handling that right now and working through that. And the other officer who I mentioned had the accident on February 16th. He continues with his recuperation. and he just had a set of physicians visit the other day, and the most recent report that we got is that his anticipated return to work date is May 12th. So hoping that continues, and we'll make some progress with both of those. And regarding personnel vacancies and updates, we still have the 3 patrol vacancies we're trying to fill. Still continuing, like everyone else, with a small number of applicants that we've been vetting and doing the initial background checks on. Currently, we have 3 candidates that have moved forward, and they've gone for polygraphs. Actually, one went just a week or 2 ago, and 2 went on Monday. So we're in the process of reviewing those results. And our hope and intention is to have some viable candidates and convene the personnel subcommittee and get that done very soon.
Are they applying to multiple departments or
Yes,
just here?
yes, they are too. So some of them are in the process. One is just applied here as far as I know, and 2 of those other ones are in the mix at other places as well.
So do they polygraph with each department or just one that's shared?
No, well, we try to get people to share, but sometimes, since everybody's vying for the same candidate, sometimes there's a delay in getting it, so a lot of people are just sending them for their own. So we kind of do that, because otherwise, sometimes you end up, it's so competitive that you're behind the 8 ball if you don't act and take your own initiative. But with that said, the departments are sharing as well. And not just the polygraphs we share from it, we all share information of, what you find with this, or what was that, and what was this, all different aspects of that. So we're continuing moving forward with that, but we do have some seats secured at the Police Academy. We have 2 seats locked in there if we can get people in July. And we also heard that New Haven's going to be starting Academy 2 somewhere in the near future. So we have 3 options, but we definitely have 2 seats locked in, and we just have to get some bodies in there. Regarding our dispatchers, the 1 vacancy we had, we hired Shanice Smith at our last meeting. And since then, she successfully completed her final pre-employment, the prerequisites for that, and she started work here on April 21st.
Oh,
So she's here, and she'll be taking certification classes and so on and so forth. But yeah, so she's on board, so all those positions are filled. And then, as you know, Janice's position, we're hoping to interview some candidates. We've had just a few so far, but the ad was run again for several days and over the weekend. So we're hoping by the end of this week, maybe we'll get some more responses, and then we'll keep you posted as we're headed with that. We want to get somebody in because it's a lot of overlap and a lot of training that's going to be necessary for that. So that's all I have on the personnel.
Have we talked about this, or the consideration, Janice, of after your retirement, potentially coming back on a limited consultative basis to help train somebody, depending on when we're successful in hiring?
I could be open to it. I guess it's going to depend on the finance department and, what Tony wants to do as administrative officer. I'm not sure. So we'll see.
Good luck to Tony.
Right answer.
And just an update on the budget, just want to remind you that this Thursday at 7:30 is the preliminary budget hearing, and that'll be followed by the May 19th, where we just rescheduled our meeting from at 7. Both of those are at 7:30, and then both of those are in the Center Gymnasium. And that's it.
Any further comments, questions for the chief or deputy? Hearing none, take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Hearing no objections, we are now in adjournment of the Board of Police Commissioners, Woodbridge, for tonight. And I'd like to open up the next meeting of the Woodbridge Traffic Authority. Don't see anybody here for public comment,
Nope, we're good.
nor correspondence.
Correct.
But do want to note and thank you for sending out the traffic committee's charge, etc. I don't know if people have been familiar with that or had a chance to look at it, but I think it's important as we try and kind of connect dots between what's the traffic authority, what's the traffic committee, how do we use data from the different reports that we have to figure out how we keep Woodbridge safe and to the charge of both the traffic authority and the traffic committee. Traffic matters, Chief.
Okay, so we had a few different matters. The first one that we need to take action on, so we received a request from the JCC seeking the traffic authority's permission to hold the 14th annual Rotary Lender Bagel Run. It's scheduled for September 14th. Like they always do, same race route. The commits around 9:30 in the morning. They expect to be over approximately 10:30 in the morning. As they've done in the past, they'll be using the regular route coming out the back of the JCC property onto Shady Lane, make a left onto North Pease, onto Pease, travel down Pease to Johnson to Ribbon, and they turn around. They don't go on 313, the State Highway. They turn around and then just travel in reverse and go back down Shady Lane and back onto the JCC property. As in the past, we'll partner with them and a police officer or two available to ensure traffic and participant safety. And everything's all going smoothly. They pretty much, fire department gets involved, we're involved. It's pretty systematic at this point. So I don't anticipate any problems. We just need a motion from the traffic authority to allow them to use the road.
I hear such a motion.
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
The next topic was the annual Earth Day event is scheduled to be held this Saturday, April 26th, from approximately 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the center of town, similar to last year. In conjunction with that, they'll be having ongoing events and vendors and performances and food trucks throughout the day on the center green, at the library, and some of the adjoining properties. Overflow parking, if needed, is going to be at the Amity High School. As was done in the past year, Meeting House Lane will be closed during the event to through traffic from about 7 in the morning to 6 p.m. to enable the organizers to set up and break down and to ensure the safety of the traffic and the pedestrians in that area and on Newton Road and on Center Road. So we'll have additional personnel assigned to address the traffic and safety concerns, and we just need permission from the traffic authority that Meeting House Lane will be closed down for that period.
Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
The next topic we had was the traffic calming on North Pease that we've been talking and dealing with for the last several years. And as you know, we had numerous complaints regarding speed on North Pease Road. During that time, we've been signing traffic enforcement details, deployed the speed trailer numerous times, conducted several data-driven traffic studies, and they're all supported that there is, the data supported that there is speeding, that speeding complaints were valid that we've been receiving throughout pretty much the entire length of North Pease Road. So back at our September 26th meeting, we called the board, approved the installation of one speed bump on North Pease. Since then, the deputy chief and I met with the traffic committee and with some of the neighbors. Most recently, we met on March 27th. So we're trying to find the best location for the speed hump. So it's been decided that it's going to go midway on North Pease between Rice Road and Center Road on that straightaway. So that's where that's going to go. We're going to just have to coordinate that with that road's being repaved this spring or summer season, this construction season that's coming up. That's just starting now. So we'll coordinate that with Warren. That's already approved. But to address the speeding issue on the other portion of the road that runs from Rice Road, and it passes the back of the high school and it goes all the way out to Amity Road. That's the other concern, that the speed hump's not really going to help with traffic there. So, after much discussion with that amongst Deputy myself, traffic committee, some of the neighbors reviewing the data that Ron had collected from the speed studies, it's our recommendation and the traffic committee's recommendation that stop signs along with stop ahead sign be posted on North Pease at the high school entrance or exit in the back, so that traffic coming off Amity Road, there's a curve there, around that sharp curve, and then as they approach Cornfield Lane, there'll be a sign saying stop ahead, then there'll be a stop sign at the high school entrance, and then there'll be another stop sign, there's already one down at Rice Road, and then there'll be the speed hump. So there's really that'll be three different measures that the traffic authority has taken over the years. These two most recent ones, and then the one from years ago was the stop sign
So
there.
there's gonna be one speed bump, and the rest will be stop signs.
Yeah, one speed bump and one additional set of stop signs at the high school driveway there. So it's our consensus that will slow down the traffic, especially that coming off Amity Road near the high school, the school zone. It'll cancel pedestrian traffic there, and it'll distribute our traffic calming efforts incrementally for the whole length of the road. So it's somewhat equitable. So that's our recommendation. And we put it to the traffic authorities for your approval.
So how did you, what were the criteria that you used to distinguish between recommending, say, another speed hump versus stop sign, et cetera?
When we looked at the
What's thinking?
speed that the study showed between that portion there, where it was definitely excessive, and coming right off of Amity Road, even though the speed, they're going from 45 zone to a 25 zone, so they're going over 45 on Amity, and then, so you couldn't really put anything in that first, immediately off the Amity Road, that wouldn't work. You couldn't put a speed hump the minute you come off Amity Road.
You could or couldn't?
No, I don't think you could, that would be pretty hazardous,
Yeah.
to get somebody to slow down that
Unsafe.
quick is our
Yeah.
thought. And then then there's a sharp bend there, right by Penryn, between Penryn and North Pease, so they have to somewhat slow down there. And so now we're trying to address between there and the stop sign at Rice Road, and we felt the midway point would be right near the school driveway.
But the stop sign's on North Pease, though.
On North Pease, yeah.
Is there a stop sign coming out of the high school?
Yes.
There already
yes,
is, right?
yeah. So
So
and
two-way
we'll have to
stop.
stop there, so we'll have to stop twice and slow down once for the speed
Sure.
bumper. So was there anything wrong, Dave?
Well, this is not gonna happen until after that road is paved. When
Well,
is the paving
stop
scheduled?
signs could go up, but the speed bump will be after.
When is the road scheduled to be paved?
I just knew it was this season, I don't know if they have the exact date, I think a lot of that's contingent on the paving companies and stuff, but it's definitely funded for this, that's why we didn't do it last year, because they were gonna be milling the road, so we just thought to might as well wait till they pave it, instead of put it in and destroy it before.
But it is funded.
From what I was told, yeah, that's on the schedule.
Do we know whose budget it's currently in, or is that
Oh, the
Tony?
speed bump, is the speed bump?
Yeah.
No, the road paving is funded, the speed bump, Town Hall and Tony will work to
Fine.
get some.
I think this
funds
says
on that,
Public
yeah.
Works.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they're gonna get the funding for that, but, it's
Out of our
approved.
budget.
Well, while they're paving the road, it's just a little more stone and asphalt.
Well, they said it was $6,000 or $7,000, but they didn't say
57.
whether it was
6
more
or 7.
6 or 7.
just putting it in or.
Yeah, and I think after we do the first one, then we'll know what a true representative cost would be, so right now, I think that's an estimated cost that Warren's giving us, but once we do one, at least we'll have an idea what it costs for the sign,
All right,
Do you
more specific.
So, and I assume there's general agreement among people who live there about the stop signs, but this is taking me back to years ago when we put a somebody put a three-way stop on, I forget the name of the street, and then somebody kept cutting down the stop sign, because, do you remember that?
Yeah, was that maybe on Newton?
It wasn't
That
Newton
person?
Prospect, it wasn't Newton, it was, if you come up Berry Road and you go left, one of those streets, but it.
Yeah,
every
I'm
time you-
sure there'd be some opposition,
Tough
but
one.
it is.
Better safe than sorry.
I know the people that, where these stop signs are going, those people were,
They want.
they've all been at it multiple times in the traffic committee. So it won't be them complaining, others may complain, people that use that route frequently, and they're not gonna like probably, and nobody's gonna, but at least- that's our recommendation for
So you need a motion? Do you need a motion?
Yeah, we need a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the final item I had was that, as we talked about previously, we had received correspondence from a Newton Road resident in the area of the high school who had expressed his concern about speeding in the area. He acknowledged our efforts, he's complained about this in the past, acknowledged our efforts and our presence and things that we've done in the past, but he and his neighbors feel that that issue hasn't been curbed, and they believe a possible solution will be the placement of speed humps by the high school. The Deputy Chief had some studies done, and he shares some of that data around here.
Yeah.
And to let you know, the speeds of there weren't excessive, but moving forward, it might be something to consider as up there as well. But
So on Newton Road, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. So we conducted a traffic study between March 12th and March 18th. And what our traffic study determined was that the average vehicle is traveling 29.82 miles per hour, which is 4.82 miles per hour faster than the posted speed limit. On average, 77% of all motorists were traveling over the posted speed limit. 23% were traveling under the posted speed limit. 20% of all motorists were traveling more than 35 miles an hour to 25 mile per hour zone.
20% were traveling more than
35 miles
35.
per hour, which is 10 miles over the posted speed limit.
But the average is 29.
The average is 29.82 miles per hour. All of every, out of all the cars.
what's that 85th percentile?
The
That's gonna be 50.
85th percentile was 36 miles per hour. 85th percentile was
So what's
36.
the goal? If the posted speed limit of 25 miles an hour, what would be ideal?
I think the goal is to try to keep motorists within a 5-mile limit, maybe 5 or 6 miles.
I mean, you're not.
When it starts to get to be 10 miles over the limit, you know, this is a school area also, so it raises more of a concern there.
And it would also be interesting to see if who's, is it the kids coming out of school that are speeding, or is it people who are passing by? Because-
We can't exit that way, right? The students have to take the back exit, right? I think only buses can come in and out.
Yeah, when they, at dismissal time.
But, okay.
Dismissal in the morning.
I mean, this data was for a 24-hour period.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So it seems like if the ideal is to have people within 5, plus or minus 5 miles an hour, under 5, then I'm not sure what you would do.
Yeah, it's very close here.
yeah.
Real close, so it's kind of a situation where probably needs to be further studied and talked about. You know, does a school being in the area, you know, add a little more credence to maybe do something over there? So-
Right, and that matrix that we share, so, you know, I think we'd have to look at all the different variables. There isn't a big accident history, you know, there's not a sightline problem, it's straight away, there's not
And
an
it sounds like
accident
we're-
history really, so things like that, but it is a school zone, so that is a one plus, even though, so yeah, so we have to study more, but just wanted to let you know what we found thus far, and it's still on the radar, and you know, it wasn't forgotten about. That's what we have for traffic.
Have any idea whether they're gonna put a recommendation of where that speed bump would go?
For what, Newton Road?
Yeah,
We didn't,
Not really.
We haven't really gotten that far yet, or even if we're. Do that.
I'd probably say somewhere, north of the high school. More toward, Penny Lane, in between school and Penny Lane.
That sounds right. Alrighty. Anything further? Otherwise, I will seek a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
aye.